Discover the incredible act of kindness that changed a single dad's life. A lonely CEO steps up. In a bustling Midwest town where dreams layered like pavement under endless traffic, Mark woke before dawn. The flickering neon sign from the diner below cast an amber glow on the cramped apartment he shared with his 7-year-old daughter, Lucy. Bills piled high on the table echoed a silent urgency. Eviction loomed like a specter. But Mark was no stranger to hard work. From flipping burgers to pouring coffee, he poured his heart into every shift, driven by the laughter of the spirited girl who called him Dad. Meanwhile, Richard, a high-flying CEO, sat in an office high above the city, secluded in his glass fortress. It glittered like success but felt colder than the winds of winter. As he signed his name on yet another stack of papers, a wave of loneliness washed over him. He had everything: money, power, but none of it brought him joy. No laughter filled his empty home. No one to share his victories with. One fateful evening, Richard decided to break the monotony. He strolled into Mark's diner after a tough day. The warmth wrapped around him like a favorite old sweater. Then he saw it Mark effortlessly brightening Lucy's day with silly jokes and a stack of pancakes taller than her head. Her giggles floated through the air, light and free. Richard felt a pang of nostalgia. He remembered his own daughter's laugh before life pulled them apart. As he sat in a booth, Richard couldn't look away. Here was a man fighting against the odds, keeping spirits alive through sheer will. It ignited something deep within him, a longing for connection, maybe even a hint of compassion. When Mark's gaze met his, Richard couldn't ignore the thought. Perhaps he could help. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, when Richard approached Mark with a job offer at his company, pride held Mark back. It felt too much like charity, a wound to his dignity. How could he accept? He wanted to provide for Lucy himself. Meanwhile, a community event was underway, highlighting the struggles of families, the stark inequalities painted in vivid strokes. Tension crackled as someone confronted Mark publicly, exposing the vulnerability he'd fought so hard to conceal. In that moment of greatest impact, Richard stood tall, facing the judgment thrown their way. He felt the weight of all he'd built, the reputation that might crumble. Yet, the desire to support Mark outweighed the risk. They were two men, worlds apart, yet all too similar in their battles against life's relentless storms. But as they navigated through this newfound alliance, Mark stumbled upon a hidden truth of Richard's past, a thread of deceit that tangled their paths even further. Was Richard's offer genuine? With the shadows of mistrust creeping in, both men stood at a crossroads, unsure if they could bridge the chasm between their lives. The tension between compassion and doubt loomed, waiting to see if genuine connection could withstand the weight of their worlds. The morning sun rose hesitantly, casting long shadows in Mark's modest apartment. Lucy stirred in her sleep, clutching the stuffed bear he had won for her at a carnival years ago. Mark silently watched her. The way her face lit up when she dreamed had always brought him a sense of peace. Yet today, uncertainty gnawed at him that he stood rooted in place. The offer Richard had made still heavy on his heart. The memory of Richard's sincere gaze haunted him. What if accepting help meant surrendering his pride? The thought bothered him more than the specter of eviction looming over them. Turning away from the window, he shuffled to the kitchen to prepare breakfast, using the rhythmic sound of clattering dishes as a distraction. "Dad, pancakes." Lucy's voice cut through his thoughts as she bounced into the room, her energy palpable. "Of course. Your favorite," he replied, smiling to hide the conflict raging inside him. As he flipped the pancakes, each sizzle reminded him of how hard he'd fought to keep Lucy's laughter alive. Later that day, Mark walked to the diner with Lucy, the familiar path now seeming heavier. When they arrived, he spotted Richard in a corner booth, buried in paperwork. Their eyes met, and Mark felt a twinge of nerves. Richard waved, his demeanor relaxed but eyes earnest. It was a reminder of that night, the courage Richard had shown when he stood up for them at the community event. Can we sit? Mark asked, his voice steady but unsure. Absolutely, Richard replied, gesturing for them to join him. Lucy slid into the booth, totally at ease, while Mark sat across from Richard, a thick tension filling the air. I've been thinking, Richard began, looking directly at Mark. You don't have to decide right now, but I want you to know that my offer stands. You've got talent, and I believe in your potential. Mark swallowed hard, his pride battling against the flicker of hope in his chest. I appreciate it, but I just can't accept charity. Not for me, and definitely not for Lucy. Silence hung between them, heavy yet charged. Richard shifted in his seat, a trace of disappointment flickering across his face. This isn't charity. It's an opportunity. You're a hard worker, and I'm looking for someone with your skills. It won't just help you. It'll help me too. Mark looked at Lucy, who was busy drawing on a napkin, her innocence a stark contrast to the complexities of the adult world around her. What kind of father would he be if he let pride prevent him from securing a future for her? Your daughter deserves the best, Mark. Sometimes the best comes from teamwork. We can help each other, Richard continued, determination in his voice. The words simmered inside him, a glimmer of possibility shining through the dark clouds of doubt. But deep down, another tension grasped at his resolve. The hidden truth about Richard's past gnawed at him, casting shadows over their budding alliance. Could he really trust this man who had once navigated deceit? Look, I need to think about it, Mark finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. Richard nodded, respect etched on his face. I understand. Just know, I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. As they finished their meal in companionable silence, Mark felt the weight of the decision ahead pressing on him. Was he willing to risk opening up, or was he forever bound to the pride that had kept him from reaching out? Leaving the diner, Mark felt Lucy grasping his hand tightly. Dad, can I go to the park? Sure, he replied without hesitation. But as they headed toward the park, a nagging question lingered in his mind. What if this partnership with Richard was the turning point he'd been searching for? Or was it the beginning of something much more complicated and precarious? The sun dipped low in the sky, casting an amber glow over the park. Mark felt a chill in the air, filled with uncertainty. Would he embrace this chance at change or retreat back into his familiar walls? With each step, the crossroads loomed ahead, and he knew action had to come soon. But before he could ponder any further, Lucy tugged on his sleeve, eyes bright. Look, Dad, the swings. As she ran off, Mark watched, a smile forming on his lips. Yet, in the depths of his heart, he couldn't shake the question that lingered. Was this moment just the calm before a storm? Would he truly be able to seize the opportunity or watch it slip away? Mark watched Lucy bounce toward the swings, her laughter echoing sweetly in the crisp evening air. For a fleeting moment, all his worries faded as he took in the innocent joy radiating from her. She was lost in her world, swirling in circles, her hair dancing like sun-kissed ribbons. But as he observed her, a knot of tension tightened in his chest. That laugh, so vibrant, so full of life, belonged to a girl who deserved stability, who deserved everything a father could provide. He turned away, almost instinctively, to hide the unease creeping back in. The last thing he wanted was for Lucy to sense his turmoil. Dad, come push me, she shouted, eyes sparkling with excitement. His heart softened, and he approached the swing set, the squeak of the rusty chains filling his ears as he gently pushed her higher. Is this fast enough? He asked, and she squealed in delight, her tiny hands clutching the ropes as she soared into the sky. Higher, higher, Mark chuckled, relishing the lightness in the air even as a heaviness anchored him down. Imagining the future was like staring into a fog. He didn't know what lay ahead. Should he grasp Richard's offer or chase the shadows back to the safe harbor of his pride? As Lucy continued to swing, he noticed a couple sitting a few benches away, their heads bent close together, whispering and laughing. The woman glanced over at him, her expression warm but cautious. Mark offered a small smile in return, but the knot in his stomach tightened. Judgments that didn't belong to him wormed their way into his mind. What would they think of him in this moment of indecision? Dad! Lucy's shout snapped him back. Look! She had jumped off the swing, landing on her feet with the kind of grace only children possess. In her hands was a bright red ball she spotted rolling nearby. I found it, she exclaimed as she threw it into the air, giggling. The simple happiness struck Mark like a bolt, yet it was laced with guilt. He realized in that moment she saw life as an adventure, while he was stuck in a loop of fear and avoidance. Was it fair to drag her down with him? "Do you want to play?" he asked. "I want to play soccer." She beamed, eyes wide as they twinkled with childlike enthusiasm. "All right," he said, perhaps a bit too eagerly. They chased the ball, laughter spilling from their lips as they ran across the grass. The world felt lighter, warmer, as he joined her in her game. Each kick a step away from fear and into the embrace of possibility. But even in this small cocoon of joy, Mark couldn't shake the thought of Richard. The kind man had been genuine, and their earlier conversation replayed in his mind like a broken record. If only he could trust fully. If only he could quell the doubts clawing at him. The sun dipped further behind the horizon, casting long shadows across the park. A sudden chill swept through the air. Mark paused, Lucy racing ahead, and he took a deep breath. What if this moment was just a glimpse of what lay ahead if he made the right choice? "Dad, come on." She turned again, waving enthusiastically. "Just a second." He hesitated, the ball rolling away, but before he could call out again, an idea hit him. Maybe it wasn't about the fear of letting go, but about the trust in the hands that extended toward him. Richard's shadow flickered in his mind como a beacon. What was holding him back? With resolve starting to build, he dashed after Lucy, laughter bubbling up within him. The promise of opportunity flickered, but before he could fully embrace it, the park lights flickered on, illuminating the world around them. As they played, he forced himself to confront the realities looming at the edge of his thoughts. Was he really ready to change, to seek help? Suddenly, from the corner of his eye, he spotted a familiar figure on the edge of the park. Richard stood there, observing, maybe waiting for him to make the first move. Mark's heart raced, the intersection of choices laid bare before him. Was he ready to step into the unknown? To let go and trust? Lucy's laughter rang clear, chasing away the uncertainty. For a moment, but Mark stood there, the decision looming large, a fork in the road about to alter everything. Would he reach out for help or run from it again? The night was young, and the choice had to be made soon. Mark's heart drummed in his chest as he glanced from Lucy, running and kicking the ball joyfully, to Richard, standing there, a calm presence on the edge of the park. It was as if the world around him had paused, the sounds of laughter and distant chatter fading into a hush. He felt like a player poised at the penalty spot, the weight of the moment pressing heavily on his shoulders. "Come on, Dad," Lucy called out again, her bright eyes glinting with the sparkle of innocence. She beamed at him, no idea of the turmoil roiling within. His resolve flickered. What if saying yes meant stepping into the light after so long lost in uncertainty? What if he let go of his tangled past? Slowly, focusing on her laughter that rang like music, he crossed toward Richard. "Hey," he said, forcing a smile that felt awkward. "You came. Thought I'd check in," Richard replied, his tone warm and reassuring. "How are you two doing?" Mark shrugged, feeling vulnerable under the scrutiny of that steady gaze. Well, we're playing soccer. Just having fun. That's great. Lucy has a way of bringing joy, doesn't she?" Mark nodded, warmth edging into his chest. Lucy squealed again as she chased after the ball, her laughter carrying like a melody. "Yeah, she does. She's something special. Why don't you let me help you?" Richard suggested, the invitation lilting. "I can be there for you. Just let me know what you need." Mark's heart squeezed. His mind raced through a labyrinth of fears. Trust? That was a hard pill to swallow, and even the first step felt scary. But for Lucy's sake, maybe it was time to get off that wall he'd been perched on for so long. He couldn't keep shielding her from his own demons. That wasn't what fathers did. "Yeah, I think I might need more than just a push right now," he admitted, the words spilling out. "I don't want to mess this up for Lucy." Richard's expression softened. "You won't mess anything up by seeking help. It just means you care enough to try." Mark looked at Lucy, bounding around, absorbed in her game. That joy he often felt was like a distant echo, but in her eyes, he saw a flicker of hope, a spark he could ignite within himself. "What do I do?" he asked, and the vulnerability in his voice surprised him. "Let us start with a conversation. Let us figure out what you really want," Richard suggested, stepping closer. "You're not alone in this. You have more than just yourself to think about." Mark felt the weight of those words settle on him. Yes, he was more than just a father. He was a guide, a protector, and perhaps he could learn to be something more. Okay, I can do that, Mark said slowly, his heartbeat sinking with a growing resolve. Just then, Lucy kicked the ball right there between them, giggling when it rolled back. She darted toward them, her eyes full of life. Are you guys going to just stand there? Play with me. Her enthusiasm blasted through Mark's doubts. Of course, he shouted, grabbing the ball and tossing it toward Lucy. She caught it, her laughter ringing bright and true in that moment. Surrounded by the warmth of the evening, Mark felt something shift. He was beginning to step away from the ledge he'd been teetering on and instead reach for something steady and bright. There was a future waiting for him, filled with uncertainty, yes, but also promise. Let us play, Mark said, joining Lucy on the grass. As they kicked the ball back and forth, laughter echoing, he felt the tightening begin to loosen, little by little. But looming in the background, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenge was still ahead. Would he truly open himself up, trust Richard, and confront his fears? Or was this just another fleeting moment of joy before the darkness crept back? The game moved on, the night deepening, and Mark couldn't help but wonder, how far was he willing to go for Lucy? The answers lay ahead, waiting patiently for his decision. The laughter rolled through the park like a wave, each chuckle from Lucy pushing away the shadows that had clung to Mark for countless nights. It felt good, liberating even, to finally engage, but somewhere deep inside him, a low hum of anxiety stirred. What if he let her down? What if this shift turned out to be just another false dawn? The sun started to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, and there was Lucy, a whirlwind of energy, chasing that ball with wild abandon. Every time she kicked it back to him, her smile grew wider, making his heart soar, but also twist with unease. She was the embodiment of joy, and he was deeply aware that the joy in their lives depended, in part, on his choices. Come on, Dad. You can kick harder than that, Lucy called out, scrunching her nose in playful challenge. Mark chuckled, taking a deep breath. Here was a chance to combat more than just the physical distance he had kept from his daughter. It was about bridging the gap within himself. All right. Watch this. He swung his leg back, focusing all his energy on the ball, and sent it flying far down the field, Lucy's squeal of delight ringing through the air. She raced after it, laughter echoing like music. In that moment, Mark couldn't help but feel a tinge of pride, a flicker of hope igniting within as they played. Richard watched quietly, his supportive presence a reassuring backdrop. Every now and then, his eyes would meet Mark's, giving him the push to continue. It was strange, but comforting to have someone else in his corner, someone believing he could change. Yet as the fun continued, Mark's phone buzzed from his pocket, a reminder of the world he had tried so hard to escape. It was a message from his boss. The company was facing tough times, and they needed all hands on deck. Just the weight of those words felt overwhelming, and for a split second, the laughter faded as he considered it. Dad, Lucy's voice cut through his momentary freeze, pulling him back. Her big eyes were full of concern. Are you okay? Yeah, sweetheart, he replied, forcing a smile that wasn't quite genuine. Just trying to think of the best ways to kick the ball. Just kick it, she exclaimed, her innocence dissolving his worries for just a heartbeat. He bent down and looked her in the eye. Okay, I'll kick it. But just as he did, a sudden chill swept through him. The realization hit he could no longer afford to stand on the sidelines of his own life. Would he slip back into the old patterns of stress and anxiety, or would he take Richard's advice and start a new chapter not just for Lucy's sake, but for his own too? Mark? Richard's voice broke through again. You all right? I don't know, Mark admitted, staring down the field where Lucy was now attempting to dribble the ball, her face knitted in concentration. Today is a good day, but tomorrow? He sighed, fear creeping back in. Will I be strong enough? Richard stepped closer, his presence steadying. You just took a big step, Mark. Small steps will create progress. You don't have to have all the answers today. Mark felt warmth spread within him. It was simple advice, but infused with hope. Yeah, I guess you're right, Mark said slowly, feeling a new resolve grow. This was about more than just soccer or work. It was about opening up, reaching for what lay ahead, even if it was uncertain. Come on, Dad. You're slow. Lucy pouted, hands on her hips, a playful grin breaking out. Okay, okay, here I come, Mark shouted back, the smile on his face this time true and bright that they played. His laughter mingled with hers, lifting away the doubts and fears if only for now. But still, a nagging thought lingered. Could all this joy withstand the truth he had been trying to avoid? He needed to confront the challenges waiting on the horizon, ready to test his new resolve. Standing tall, heart racing, he wondered, what would tomorrow really bring? Would he wake up ready to face the mess of his life, or retreat once more into shadows? Only time would tell. Mark lost himself in the rhythm of the game, the ball zipping back and forth, laughter rising like a sweet chorus. Each extravagant kick from Lucy sparked a sliver of light within him, momentarily throwing off the dense fog of anxiety that often threatened to descend. Richard had a point small steps could lead to bigger changes, and in Lucy's gleeful abandon, he found encouragement. Dad, did you see that? Lucy beamed, her ponytail bouncing like a spring as she dashed back toward him. I scored. Yes, you did. You're amazing. Mark couldn't help but hoot in delight, surprised by the genuine warmth swelling in his chest. Lucy jumped up and down, her joy contagious. In the softening light, he saw her sparkle, and it reminded him of a time long gone when laughter wasn't so rare. But as the sun continued its descent, shadows began to creep back into his mind. The notification from work still loomed over him like a dark cloud, waiting to break. He had told himself today would be different. He would take things one step at a time, yet this nagging sense of dread curled in the depths of his heart. Would playing a game of soccer today really shift anything in the long run? Hey, buddy, Richard's voice was steady. What's on your mind? Mark hesitated, playing with the grass beneath his feet. Just everything. The job, the pressure, the kids. Can I really handle it all? At that moment, he looked at Lucy, who was now rolling on the grass, coated in blissful oblivion, and the contrast was stark. The lines of adulthood pressed down hard, while she was carefree, unlinked from the heaviness that followed him everywhere. You've been through a lot, Mark, Richard said, his tone gentle yet firm. But being present with Lucy is what matters right now. She doesn't need you to be perfect. She just needs you to be here. You're right, Mark breathed out, feeling the weight of that truth. Maybe he could let the job worry take a back seat, at least for today. What good was he if he stood apart, burdened by tasks yet to be faced? Hold on, Lucy shouted, excitement piercing through the tension. Let us do a trick. She quickly got up, her cheeks flushed and eyes twinkling with mischief. I'll show you how to score like a pro. All right, maestro. Show me. As Lucy demonstrated kick after kick, Mark tried to mirror her movements, faltering more than he succeeded. Yet every mishap sparked laughter instead of frustration. There was something freeing about letting go of the need to be perfect. As the last sliver of sunlight licked the horizon, Mark realized something essential. Joy wasn't about keeping every part of his life in check. It was about embracing the messiness and finding light within it. The transformation he craved could start right now, especially in little moments with Lucy. Okay, last kick, Lucy declared, her determination written all over her face. Mark took a deep breath, focusing on the ball as she tossed it to him with excitement. With newfound energy, he kicked it toward her. It flew and landed perfectly at her feet. Lucy squealed, taking off down the field. Did you see that, Dad? You did it. Mark laughed heartily, feeling lighter, as if the shadows had lifted just a little. Maybe tomorrow would have its challenges, but today he basked in a simple victory. He was here, present and involved just like a dad should be. Yet guilt still tugged at the corner of his heart. What would happen when the sun fully set and the reality of the world returned? Could this spark hold? Would Lucy understand that even in his imperfections, he was trying? Lucy, he called, as she pranced back, still bubbling with energy. What if we make this a regular thing? Her eyes lit up, but in that instant, he noticed something beyond her excitement, a flicker of recognition in her innocence. Really? You mean we can play together more often? Mark nodded, feeling a little breathless. Absolutely. But there's something I need to figure out first about my job. Like what? She asked, tilting her head, eyes wide with curiosity. He hesitated as uncertainty swirled within him. Could he explain it to her? Perhaps the real question was, could he even explain it to himself? As night enveloped the park, the echoes of laughter remained, but now mixed with deeper contemplation. Tomorrow held the unknown, and Mark felt the weight of it pressed down. What if confronting his fears meant opening a door to not just change his life, but also Lucy's? Standing at the edge of that thought, he wondered, could a simple act of kindness truly change everything? Mark stood at the edge of the park, where the grass gave way to asphalt and the sounds of children playing began to fade into the background. Lucy, still buzzing with excitement, raced toward him, her laughter echoing into the twilight. But with every step she took, his heart sank just a little deeper. The weight of his job loomed heavy, the notification from the office nagging at him like an uninvited guest refusing to leave. "Dad, come on, let us play another game," she urged, her voice brightening the fading horizon. "Just a second, Lucy," he replied, forcing a smile as he watched her bound around. How could he possibly dive into another round when his head felt like it was swimming in uncertainty? The thought of facing work again was like staring down a long, dark tunnel. Couldn't he wielding joy like a shield help? Will you really be here more? The question hung in the air between them, simple yet profound. In her wide, trusting eyes, he recognized the delicate balance of hope and dread. "I want to be, sweetheart," he said slowly, trying to sound reassuring, but doubt crept into his voice. Would he manage to balance this joy with the chaos of work? Was it even possible to connect with Lucy without the burden of responsibility pulling him back? Lucy tilted her head, the softest frown forming on her face. "But you're always busy with stuff. I want my dad to play." Her innocence struck a chord deep within Mark. Each word felt like a dagger aimed right at his heart. "You're right," he admitted, guilt surging along with the warmth. "I haven't been the best dad I can be, but I want to change. I do." Every word unleashed a mixture of resolve and fear. If he was going to be the dad Lucy deserved, he would need to confront that looming darkness soon. But standing in the warmth of her affection, a flicker of motivation ignited. Could the simple act of being present change everything for them both? Returning to the field, Mark joined in on a few more playful kicks. With every pass between them, the laughter felt lighter, the moments less frayed with worry. He started to believe that this small connection could lead to far more. "Hey, Lucy," he called out, ready for a twist in their game. "Let us pretend we're in a tournament. What is our team name?" Her eyes sparkled, and she shouted, "The Kickin' Duo?" "Perfect. All right, Kickin' Duo, let us show them how it's done." As they played on, he found himself tapping into a rhythm of happiness he hadn't felt in ages. But as darkness fell, the glow of the streetlights flickered on, and unyielding thoughts began to creep back in. What would he say to his boss when he returned? Could he be honest about how completely overwhelmed he felt? A nagging doubt whispered in his ear. Would they even understand that seeking balance was a challenge for him, too? "Lucy," he called again, this time with an edge of hesitance. "What do you think I should do about my job?" She mused, tapping her chin like a tiny philosopher. "You should tell them to let you spend time with me. That's what's important." Mark chuckled at the innocence radiating from her, but as her words washed over him, they hit harder than expected. Could it really be that simple? With a determined nod, he fought against the swell of thoughts threatening to overcome him. Tomorrow would lead to hard choices, no doubt. But tonight, he resolved to be the dad Lucy deserved. "All right, my little jumping bean," he said, an encouraging smile breaking through. "How about we make sure you never doubt my presence again? Let us grab some ice cream and celebrate our victory." With that simple statement, the corners of her mouth curled upwards, her excitement blooming again. "Yay, chocolate chip mint," she exclaimed, her face practically glowing with delight. "Whatever you want," he replied, feeling buoyed by her happiness. As they turned towards the exit, a small piece of his hermit shell seemed to crack away. But as they walked hand in hand, a strange unease lingered in his chest. What awaited him in the morning? Would he have the courage to put his fears on the table, or would he climb back into the safety of his shell? The night air wrapped around them, and with every step into the unknown, he felt the ground shift beneath him. There was power in Lucy's innocent faith, and beneath the pressure, perhaps it was the kind of change they both needed to navigate the journey ahead. As they stepped into the world of ice cream delights, the flicker of hope sparked again. What if this small victory tonight opened a door to something extraordinary tomorrow? Mark pushed open the door of the ice cream shop, the bell tinkling cheerfully above him. The air was thick with sweet, creamy temptation, which even for a moment chased away the shadows gnawing at his thoughts. Lucy dashed ahead, her vibrant energy infusing a small sense of warmth into Mark's heart. He watched as she pointed at the colorful menu board, her eyes as wide as saucers. "What should we get?" Lucy asked, bouncing slightly on her heels. "Can we try everything?" He chuckled and ruffled her hair. "That might be a bit too much. How about you pick your top two, and I'll help you choose?" "Okay, let us see chocolate chip mint and cookie dough," she declared, her hand clasped tightly around the small plastic cup as though holding a trophy. "Great choices. I'm going to go with vanilla." Mark smiled, momentarily shaking the tight grip of anxiety about tomorrow. If he had to face the truth, he could at least savor these small moments with Lucy. They settled at a small table by the window, the glow of the streetlights creating a cozy atmosphere around them. As Lucy dug into her ice cream, Mark found himself admiring the way she enjoyed every lick, her joy radiating through the small space. He couldn't help but think how easy it was to forget that life could be sweet, even when it felt overwhelmingly bitter. "Isn't this the best?" Lucy asked between mouthfuls, her cheeks full and glistening with melted ice cream. "Absolutely," Mark responded, a genuine smile warming his face. "You make everything better. You know that." Lucy giggled, her laughter light and contagious. "You know what else would make everything better? More time together." Mark's heart ached. "You're right. I promise I'll try. I really want to be here more." He hesitated, unsure if the promise would stick or if it was just a soothing balm for their moment. Lucy, undeterred, took his hand in hers. "Can we make a deal? Every Saturday, at just BS, no work, no phones, just fun." The simplicity of her plea hit him like a soft punch. A deal. He could do that. "You really think we could manage that?" "Of course. You just have to tell your boss that I'm more important," she said matter-of-factly, her expression earnest. Mark chuckled again, filled with affection for this tiny force of nature. "Okay, kick and duo, you just might be onto something." They finished their ice cream, and as they left the shop, the chill of the night air embraced them, blending with the warm glow of Lucy's presence. Mark's apprehension about tomorrow still loomed, but now intertwined with something different, a hope ignited by this small moment, the laughter, and Lucy's simple belief in him. As they walked home, hand in hand, Mark stared at the stars peeking through the clouds above. Each glimmer reminded him of the small victories he craved. It wouldn't be easy to face his fears, but for Lucy, the possibility of transforming his reality into a life centered around her made him feel brave. "Dad," Lucy said, breaking the silenced comfort. "What if your boss says no? What if they don't want you to be around more?" The question landed like a weight in Mark's chest. He hadn't even allowed himself to consider failure. Would that hammer the last nail into the coffin of his hopes? "Then I'd find a way to show them why it's important," he responded, an edge of determination sparking in his thoughts. "Because my time with you is what really matters. I won't let myself or you down again." Lucy's eyes lit up with admiration. That's the spirit. But as the reality of the morning loomed closer, Mark couldn't shake the tightening in his chest. Was he really ready for the truth? Would he walk into that office prepared to challenge everything, realize that his worthiness might need to be proven? As they turned the corner toward home, Mark's heart raced with both excitement and fear. Little did he know, the journey ahead was going to challenge not just his resolve, but his entire perception of what it meant to take a stand for love. What awaited him in that office tomorrow could change everything. Would he grasp the courage to redefine his life, or would he slip back into old habits, allowing fear to win once more? Morning light streamed through the curtains, spilling onto Mark's face like a gentle nudge. He groaned, turning away, but it was inevitable. Today was the day. Quick glances at the clock ticked away his precious time. He could feel Lucy stirring in her bed, her dreams slowly fading like the mist outside. "Dad," her sleepy voice drifted through the air. "Is it Saturday already?" Mark pushed himself out of bed, a smile forcing its way onto his lips despite the weight gnawing at his stomach. "Nope, not yet. Today's the big day, though." "Big day? Does that mean ice cream again?" She shot back, a playful excitement threading through her words. He laughed, the sound muffled, yet it lifted a corner of his worry. "I wish it could be ice cream every day, But today, we're focusing on work. You promise you'll still get ice cream later? Lucy's voice was laced with determination, and he knew her innocent hope was a powerful force. I promise, he replied, half convincing himself it would happen as he prepared for the day. Mark shuffled through emails and a slew of work obligations. His mind was a whirlwind, a cocktail of doubt and possibility. Weighing every outcome felt like lifting mountains, and he couldn't help but feel like he was sprinting toward an inevitable fall. The shadows of yesterday's fears crept back in as he drove to his office. A passing glance at the vibrant trees, their leaves catching the morning sun, reminded him of Lucy's laughter. He took a deep breath, a reminder of her unwavering faith in him. Walking through the office doors felt like an acquittal. He settled into his desk, the familiar hum of the office enveloping him. But this time, it was different. He had a mission to make his presence known, to build a life around being the father Lucy deserved. Morning, Mark, a colleague greeted him, her eyes sharp with expectation. Morning, he replied, forcing a smile. He could hear the ticking clock in his head, each second pulling him closer to the moment he dreaded most. As the hours dragged on, snippets of conversations floated around him. He noted ambition, plans, and profits. But in the background, something stirred. There were conversations about the importance of work-life balance, threads of discussion hinting at a shift in company culture, everything Mark had always longed for. Finally, the moment arrived. His boss called him into her office, the walls lined with accolades and corporate successes. Mark's palms felt clammy as he stepped inside, forcing himself to stand tall despite the whirlpool of emotions inside. Mark, I've noticed you've been putting in a lot of extra hours, she began, her gaze piercing. Yes, I halted, searching for the courage to be honest. But I've realized I need to prioritize my daughter more. His words hovered in the air, heavy and freeing all at once. For the first time, he felt that perhaps they could both coexist, work and family. That's admirable, his boss nodded, surprise etching her features. I think it's important to have that balance. We might need to start considering flexible hours. His heart raced. Was he dreaming? As the conversation progressed, ideas of a new work schedule took form. Hope swirled within him. Maybe, just maybe, he could be present for Lucy in ways he never imagined. He left the office with his heart soaring. Outside, the world looked different, brighter. A small victory had been achieved, and he was ready to celebrate. When he got home, Lucy was waiting, bouncing on her toes. What is the exciting news? Did you tell them? I did, and he paused, excitement bubbling up. I think they're going to let me change my hours. Her eyes sparkled. That's awesome, Dad. Does that mean more ice cream for us? Exactly, but this time, it's going to be a whole Saturday of fun, he said, lifting her in the air, her laughter ringing through the house like music. But as the joy wrapped around him, Mark's mind couldn't shake the nagging thought. Would his boss truly commit to the changes? Was there a chance that words could translate into action? Little did he know, a challenge loomed just around the corner, one that would test both his commitment and the dreams he had just begun to weave for his family. How far was he willing to go to prove that joy could thrive alongside ambition? Mark rushed around the apartment, gathering his things for the weekend outing he and Lucy had planned. Today was more than just another Saturday. It felt like a brand new beginning. He could finally taste the sweetness of freedom, the chance to weave together family and responsibility. Lucy, are you ready? He called out, his heart thrumming with excitement. Ready, she squeaked, bouncing into the room with her backpack slung over one shoulder, the same bright smile lighting up her face. The unease that had gripped him all week melted slightly when he saw her enthusiasm. That joy was infectious. Their day began at the park, the air crisp, birds chirping, and the sun shining brightly. Mark watched as Lucy dashed toward the swings, her laughter dancing in the wind. There was something magical about this moment that filled him with determination. It felt different this time. He wasn't just watching, he was fully engaged, ready to embrace every second. Look at me, Dad, Lucy shouted, soaring high into the air. Mark felt a surge of pride, realizing he wasn't just present in the moment, but he was actually living it. As they played, he thought back to the meeting with his boss the day before. She had listened, really listened. The idea of flexible hours hadn't just been a suggestion, it was a lifeline. Maybe, just maybe, he could achieve the balance he longed for. Yet, as anxiety swept back, he worried. Would it truly happen? Would they really change? Hey, Dad, race me to the trees. Lucy called out, and before he could respond, she took off, determination etched into her features. Mark laughed and joined her. He realized racing alongside her was less about the finish line and more about the journey they were sharing. Minutes turned into hours filled with pure joy. After exhausting themselves at the park, they decided to grab ice cream from a local shop. Lucy ordered a heaping scoop of her favorite, chocolate chip mint, while Mark chose his ever-reliable vanilla. With ice cream in hand, they strolled along the sidewalks, the sun painting everything in a warm glow. Do you think we can do this every week? Lucy asked, licking her cone. Absolutely, he said, his heart swelling. Every single Saturday will be our adventure. Just then, Mark's phone rang, jolting him back to reality. It was his boss. A knot formed in his stomach as he answered. Hello? Mark, I wanted to follow up about yesterday. I've thought deeply about what you said. We're implementing a new policy regarding flexible hours that you're interested in. I think it could work out really well for you and the team. Mark stood frozen, every muscle in his body released from years of tension. Really? You mean I can adjust my hours? Yes. I believe this will create a more productive environment overall. We'll need to discuss it further, but I'm excited for what this means moving forward. Thank you so much. Mark exclaimed, the relief crashing over him like a gentle wave. The call ended, but rather than the fears rearing up, hope filled those cracks of doubt. Dad, are you okay? You look strange, Lucy observed, her brows knitting together in concern. I just got some really good news, he said, beaming at her. We're going to have more time together, just like we planned. More Saturdays, more ice cream. Best day ever. She squealed, almost twirling in delight. Mark joined her, feeling lighter than air. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the world, Mark understood that life would still throw challenges their way. But he had made a choice, a commitment to prioritize his family over the chaos. He glanced at Lucy, her eyes twinkling, her heart full of adventure, and knew they were embarking on a new chapter together. He finally found clarity. It wasn't just about managing work or being a father. It was about nurturing both worlds simultaneously. To love fiercely, support lavishly, and invest in the moments that made them whole. With that resolution in mind, he turned to Lucy and asked, how about we celebrate our first adventure today with a movie night when we get home? Her eyes sparkled with excitement. With popcorn and blankets? Absolutely. He laughed, feeling like the luckiest man alive. They walked home hand in hand, laughter trailing behind them like a golden thread weaving hope into their lives. As the afternoon faded into dusk, Mark felt more confident than ever. Whatever lay ahead, he was ready to embrace it with Lucy by his side. Together, they were a team, not just the kickin' duo but a family, intertwining dreams, hopes, and loving support into each step forward. And in that bustling Midwest town, underneath the sprawling sky and the familiar sound of laughter, everything felt like it was finally falling into place. Life was about to become sweet again. Now is the time, friends. Don't miss out on what's coming next. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait, not even one more second to share.